You've been living with a stranger, and that stranger is you. Every day you wake up, put on your smile, say the right words, play your part. But deep inside, beneath the routine, beneath the roles, you feel it. A quiet ache, a whisper, that something's missing, that behind the mask, there's someone you haven't met yet. And maybe it's time you did. Now, guided by the insights of one of the most brilliant minds of the 20th century, Carl Jung, we begin our descent into the inner world. Alongside giants like Sigmund Freud and Alfred Adler, Jung wasn't just a thinker, he was a seeker of soul. While Freud admired his brilliance, Jung eventually forged his own path, founding what we now know as analytical psychology. But Jung's influence stretches far beyond the realm of psychology. His insights didn't just shape the field, they rippled into literature, art, religion, and the way we interpret myths and dreams. This wide-reaching impact gave rise to what we now call Jungian philosophy. Through his numerous seminal works, including The Psychology of the Unconscious Man and his symbols, The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, Modern Man, In Search of a Soul, The Psychology of the Transference Memories, Dreams and Thoughts, and the relations between the ego and the unconscious. Jung gifted us a roadmap to understanding the intricate landscape of our inner world. At the heart of Jung's teachings is the concept of the psyche, the totality of our being encompassing both our conscious and unconscious dimensions. Within the realm of the conscious lies the ego, the center of our awareness, the part of us that navigates our daily lives, making decisions and acting upon the world we perceive. However, the ego, limited as it is to our conscious experience, can only take us so far on the path to becoming truly ourselves. To unlock our most authentic selves, we must venture into the vast and often uncharted territories of the unconscious. That immense part of us that lies beyond our immediate awareness. Jung brilliantly divided the unconscious into two key layers: the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. The personal unconscious is like a hidden reservoir of our individual experiences, tucked away emotions, seemingly forgotten memories, vague feelings, and repressed thoughts. It's the unique tapestry of our personal history that shapes us in ways we don't always realize. But the collective unconscious is something even more profound. It's a universal inheritance, a shared reservoir of instincts, thoughts, feelings, and primordial images that resonate across all of humanity, past and present. Jung called these universal mental concepts archetypes. Think of the timeless characters that populate our myths, fairy tales and stories: the hero, the villain, the wise old sage, the nurturing mother. These aren't just fictional figures, they are reflections of the archetypes that reside within each and every one of us. Deep down, we all carry these cultural and generational imprints, these universal patterns of human experience. But what happens when we ignore that map? What happens when we lock away the very parts of us that hold the key to healing? This is where the shadow begins to rise. We might pretend to be someone we're not, sometimes even fooling ourselves in the process. But this very act of suppression is what keeps us trapped in inauthenticity. How can we ever truly become who we are meant to be if we remain strangers to ourselves? Jung wisely reminds us that an authentic life is deeply intertwined with our inner life. To be truly yourself in the world, you must first know who you are within. This courageous journey of facing our inner landscape to achieve authenticity is what Jung called the process of individuation. Individuation is, in essence, the path to becoming more fully. Individuation is, in essence, the path to becoming more fully ourselves. It's a transformative journey of spiritual growth, one that invites us to confront our true nature, cultivate authenticity, and foster a lasting connection between our conscious and unconscious minds. This isn't about eradicating the unconscious, that would be a catastrophic imbalance, but rather about fostering harmony and balance between our conscious and unconscious selves, ensuring neither dominates the other. According to Jung, navigating this path of individuation requires us to confront 4 key archetypes: the persona, the shadow, the anima/animus, and the self. In this journey together, we'll explore each of these archetypes and discover how understanding them can illuminate your path to a more authentic and fulfilling life. 1. The persona. The mask we wear. Jung beautifully described the persona as a complicated system of relations between individual consciousness and society. So fittingly enough, a kind of mask designed on the one hand to make a definite impression upon others, and on the other to conceal the true nature of the individual. Think of it as your social mask, the face you present to the world, the impression you consciously try to make. Just like actors in a theater use masks to portray different characters, we develop various personas as we grow and learn to navigate social interactions. It's not just one single mask, but a collection of roles we adopt in different situations. Jung emphasizes that the persona is a natural and even necessary part of our social existence. Imagine a therapist, for example. Expressing hostility toward a client would not only be unprofessional, it would alienate them, break trust, and undermine the healing process, as it would erode trust and hinder the very healing they aim to facilitate. A therapist who scares their clients fails in their role. Therefore, they might consciously choose to suppress feelings of anger or frustration, and instead embody a kind and caring demeanor. In this instance, the kind persona acts as a helpful tool for navigating the social world effectively. The persona serves as a bridge between our inner ego and the external world, a way for our conscious self to interact with its social environment. However, this mask not only presents a certain image, but can also conceal our true selves. Behaving in accordance with our persona can sometimes feel like acting like faking it. This is where the danger of over-identification arises. When we become too attached to our persona, it can become an unconscious part of us, blurring the lines between our carefully constructed mask and our genuine inner self. We lose sight of our individuality, our true desires and needs, and become trapped in a role. Think of the school teacher who can't shed their authoritative persona even at home, becoming overly dictatorial with their family. While putting on a certain front can be a polite and necessary part of social interaction, like perhaps not commenting on someone's appearance to avoid causing offense, it should never become who you believe you truly are. And here's a liberating truth. Over-identification with the persona is not sustainable in the long run. The pretense eventually cracks. Our personas inevitably enter a phase of disintegration, either intentionally or unintentionally. We might experience burnouts, identity crises, feeling lost and unsure of our path. It could manifest as that teacher finally snapping under pressure. This disintegration can leave us feeling disoriented and adrift with no clear sense of who we are beneath the shattered mask, and no easy way back to our familiar performance. But there's hope. We can cultivate a restored persona, one that complements our true self, instead of clashing with it. Restoration, in Jung's view, means developing a flexible persona that aligns with our authentic nature, allowing us to navigate society while remaining true to ourselves. The restored persona is one we are consciously aware of. We understand when we are adopting a certain role, and we know who we are underneath it all. By being conscious of our persona, we can choose to integrate our true self into it. Instead of acting in opposition to our inner feelings, we can find ways to weave our individuality into how we present ourselves to the world. Returning to our therapist example, integrating their negative feelings doesn't mean lashing out at clients, but rather acknowledging those feelings, setting healthy boundaries, and taking the necessary time for self-care to prevent burnout. It's about saying no when needed, prioritizing well-being, and allowing space for genuine emotions without letting them dictate harmful behavior. The restoration of the persona is the key to harmonizing our authentic self with the demands of the social world, allowing us to live our most genuine life within society. 2. The shadow, embracing our unacknowledged selves. Jung profoundly stated, "Everyone carries a shadow." This powerful insight laid the foundation for what we now call shadow work, the conscious effort to uncover and integrate the hidden aspects of ourselves. At all counts, it forms an unconscious snag, thwarting our most well-meant intentions. Our shadow self encompasses all the parts of ourselves that we deem unacceptable, the traits we reject and repress. Our anger, vanity impulses, dark thoughts, shameful tendencies, and so on. Often, these are characteristics or desires that society as a whole frowns upon. From childhood, we are often taught that we shouldn't have these qualities, and so we deny their existence within ourselves. However, denying these aspects doesn't make them vanish. It simply pushes them into our blind spot, where they can negatively impact our ability to be truly free individuals. Jung believed that to become whole, to become who we truly are, we must consciously acknowledge our shadow selves and find ways to integrate them into our personality instead of constantly ignoring them. Our repressed traits are a part of us, and only by accepting and embracing this reality can we move toward genuine self-acceptance. The repression of our shadow self can feel natural, even necessary. It's incredibly challenging and uncomfortable to confront the aspects of ourselves that we dislike or fear the most. How can someone who prides themselves on kindness ever admit to feelings of envy? How can someone who projects confidence ever acknowledge their deep-seated insecurities? In many cases, they simply don't. And ironically, those who are least aware of their shadow selves are often the ones most troubled by them. The more we repress something, the more insistently it seeks expression. This is why we might suddenly say something we instantly regret, why our negative emotions can betray us through our facial expressions, or why we might act on impulses that lead to later remorse. The repression of our shadow self can lead to a quick temper, feelings of being out of control, and even delusions about who we are. When someone who generally sees themselves as gentle suddenly lashes out their entire self-image, can be shaken. The shadow can make us act in ways that leave us wondering, why did I do that? Furthermore, the repression of the shadow can manifest as projection, where we overreact to the negative qualities we see in others. We project those aspects we dislike in ourselves onto the people around us. So when someone acts selfishly, we might feel an exaggerated sense of anger because we harbor an unacknowledged hatred for our own selfishness. This harsh judgment of others can strain our relationships and contribute to our own self-loathing due to our own unacknowledged bad traits. In all these instances, we are not acting as free and authentic individuals. Now that we've uncovered the social masks we wear, it's time to dig deeper into the parts of ourselves we usually avoid. This is the very essence of shadow work, becoming aware of these hidden aspects without necessarily identifying with them. You don't have to believe that you are all those traits you try to hide, but you do have to acknowledge their presence within you to become conscious of the unconscious shadow. We need to cultivate the ability to step back and analyze our own behavior, thoughts, and feelings in our daily lives. For example, imagine someone who projects a confident image, but secretly struggles with deep insecurities. They might react with coldness or anger when someone touches upon a topic related to their insecurity. They might avoid situations, activities, or even clothing they genuinely like to avoid feeling vulnerable. They might lie to themselves and others, overcompensating with an exhausting facade of self-assurance. When this person begins to realize that this unwanted behavior stems from their underlying insecurities, they can start the process of facing them. This involves exploring the roots of their insecurity, perhaps a past rejection, and approaching that experience with kindness and understanding. It's about recognizing that a single negative event doesn't define their worth. Sharing these experiences with others, talking about the feelings involved, or trying new things can be powerful steps in this process. Ultimately, only by confronting the source of our shadow aspects can we truly deal with their consequences. Only by facing our insecurities can we find genuine self-acceptance to accompany our outward confidence. Just as acknowledging insecurity can become an opportunity to cultivate courage, acknowledging anger can be channeled into a force for justice or a healthy release of stress. Similarly, so-called bad thoughts or unacceptable desires can be acknowledged, understood, and we can learn to forgive ourselves for having. When we learn to work with our shadow self rather than against it, we take a monumental step closer to living a life that is truly our own. This is the heart of shadow work, a journey toward healing, wholeness, and freedom, and a life rooted in authenticity and spiritual growth. Only those who know and accept themselves fully, shadow and light, are able to live authentically. Shadow work helps make this possible by offering tools to explore what lies beneath the surface. 3. The Anima or Animus, integrating our inner opposite. In the insightful words of Jung, wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. Let's delve deeper into the shadow and discover the fascinating concept of our inner opposite, the Anima and the Animus. Within our shadow self, we house psychological qualities traditionally associated with the opposite gender, what Jung termed contra-sexual aspects. He believed that if you are a woman, you possess an inner masculine psyche, the animus, and if you are a man, you harbor an inner feminine psyche, the anima. However, due to societal and even personal pressures to conform to rigid gender roles, we often neglect these subconscious qualities. Our anima or animus tends to be ignored by our outward persona and repressed by our conscious ego, and this neglect can have significant consequences. Jung based his understanding of the anima and animus on the Greek concepts of eros and logos. Eros is associated with creativity, passion, connection, and wholeness, often considered more feminine qualities. Logos, on the other hand, is linked to rationality, objectivity, power, and action, typically seen as more masculine. While Jung noted that women could also have a repressed anima and men a repressed animus, the mix of these qualities is unique to each individual. The most common dynamic is women with an animus and men with an anima residing in the unconscious. We are often taught to adhere strictly to gender roles, to believe that embracing the opposite within ourselves is neither possible nor desirable. So while our ego expresses our external gender identity, our anima or animus, our internal contrasexual parts, often go unnoticed and repressed. Think of the outdated but still prevalent expression, "Boys don't cry." Showing emotion, especially sadness, is often deemed feminine and weak for men in many Western societies. The false dichotomy arises: one cannot be both a man and sensitive. Consequently, men may suppress their sensitivity and emotions. But these feelings don't disappear. They remain hidden within their anima, and the more one tries to suppress something, the more it can ultimately control them.
Denying your anima or animus won't eliminate your feminine or masculine tendencies. It will only distort them into something potentially harmful. The man who consistently suppresses his sensitivity and never allows himself to cry might experience severe depression due to the isolation of hiding his emotions, or he might have uncontrollable outbursts fueled by the pressure of keeping everything bottled up. To avoid these hardships, it's crucial to learn how to recognize and accept your contrasexual aspects. This allows us to balance these seemingly contrary traits and find greater harmony within ourselves. Becoming aware of the anima or animus within requires honest self-analysis and introspection. To explore your masculine and feminine tendencies, you can observe the people around you. When you find yourself judging someone for displaying a trait you find unusual or even negative, ask yourself why that judgment arises. Learn to appreciate the diversity of human expression. If a man begins to appreciate others for their sensitivity and their connection to their emotions, he will likely discover that embracing his own sensitivity and allowing himself to express his emotions doesn't diminish his masculinity, but rather enriches it. Other ways men can integrate their anima include embracing their passions and creativity, treating others with gentleness, and becoming more comfortable asking for help when needed. Similarly, women integrating their animus might strive to be more assertive-focused and career-oriented. This integration isn't about sacrificing your femininity or masculinity. It's about allowing it to shine more fully through the calmness and balance you achieve by embracing your inner wholeness. Through this process, you begin to respect and appreciate all aspects of yourself, which will inevitably improve your relationships with others, especially those of the opposite sex. Once your anima or animus is integrated, you move closer to becoming your true self, more balanced, harmonious, and authentically you. For the self, the center of our totality. In our final quote from Jung for today, he offers a profound understanding of the ultimate archetype. The self is not only the center, but also the whole circumference which embraces both conscious and unconscious. It is the center of this totality, just as the ego is the center of consciousness. According to Jung, the ego originates from and is contained within the self. He often compared the self to a circle or a mandala. Imagine a mandala with a smaller circle at its center. The outer circle represents the self, encompassing everything, while the inner circle represents the ego, the center of our conscious awareness. The ego concerns itself with the here and now, the conscious world, while the self encompasses our entire psyche, both the conscious and the vast unconscious realms. The self is the ultimate goal of individuation, the archetype of wholeness and integration. It represents the complete potential of the individual, the harmonious union of all aspects of our being. Furthermore, the self is deeply connected to the collective unconscious, that shared reservoir of human experience. Through this connection, we inherit universal urges, thoughts, and behaviors that have been passed down through generations and shared within communities. Because the self is so vast and all-encompassing, we can never fully understand it. However, we can embark on a lifelong journey of exploration, continually seeking to understand our unique potential. This ongoing exploration of the self is the very essence of individuation and the key to living as a truly unique individual. When we neglect this inner exploration, when we pay no special attention to ourselves and our archetypes, we can easily lose touch with who we truly are. Our ego focused solely on the conscious world can lead us astray, because it's often unaware of the deeper currents of the unconscious that are influencing our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. It's not even aware of the problem, let alone how to solve it. Therefore, to become more ourselves, we must expand our consciousness. By doing so, we broaden what the ego has access to, what it can work with, and open new paths for spiritual growth.
We cannot truly grow and evolve without exploring the depths of ourself. Neglecting this journey can result in feeling like we're acting out of character, experiencing confusing thoughts and emotions, and feeling a lack of control over our own lives. The path to resolving this disconnect lies not in suppressing the unconscious, but in consciously engaging with it, in understanding our archetypal patterns, and in fostering a harmonious relationship between our conscious ego and the vast wisdom of ourself. By doing so, we can truly get to know and continuously improve ourselves throughout our entire lives, ultimately leading us to a state of being that is authentically, beautifully, and uniquely our own. I truly hope this exploration of Jung's profound archetypes has resonated with you on a personal level. Remember, the journey to authenticity is a lifelong one filled with self-discovery, spiritual growth, and the courageous embrace of all that you are. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep striving to live a life that is deeply and truly yours. If you found this video insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that delves into the mysteries of the human experience. Let me know in the comments which archetype resonated with you the most. Until next time, take care and continue your inner journey.